for folks who don't know, the Free State Project is a movement of voluntary human action where we are trying to concentrate libertarians in the state of New Hampshire.
I think we've done more in the last decade than every other libertarian movement combined has accomplished in the last 5 decades.
Are my friends and my neighbors who are willing to stand against tyranny, make their voices heard, and have a goddamn impact.
I have a problem where too many people are afraid to say what they believe in, let alone actually do something about it. If you're afraid to stand outside the TSA line and piss off 97% of people who are waiting to just take the arm builder up their ass in 5 seconds, then you're probably not ever going to make the change.
Free State Project, again, it's 1% of the Free State movement.
I am a friend of the Free State Project.
And would you encourage people to check it out?
Absolutely. Check it out. Find out. If you like it, join and continue the effort.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, libertarians, anarchists, movers, natives, and those on your way, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Free State Live, where you can learn about all the ways you can live free and thrive in the free state of New Hampshire. But first and foremost, it's time to welcome back your hosts. As always, I'm Justin O'Donnell, former Libertarian candidate for U.S. Senate and host of the Subversive podcast, live on Tuesday nights. And joining me, as always now, Manchester memesman and one of the tallest free staters in New Hampshire, the one and only Bill Barger. How are you, Bill?
What is happening, my friend? Good to see you.
Good to have you back. And Manchester's other tallest free stater, keyboard warrior extraordinaire, Kevin from the internet. How are you, Kevin?
Second, third tallest. I don't know. I'm in there somewhere.
He's up there.
Between the two of you, it's a harsh competition for who's coming in next. And as always, the one, the only, the lovely Queen Quill herself, Carla Garrick. How are you, Carla?
I am probably the widest of the three of us.
No.
I'm told this way. I'm great. How you guys doing?
Fantastic. It's fun to have the whole crew back together, a big crew tonight, because it's going to be a fun show with our special guest, the one, the only, the loud, the boisterous, activist extraordinaire and PorcFest 2022 organizer, Dennis Pratt. How are you, Dennis? Thanks for joining us today.
How you guys doing? You can see I have my rose-colored glasses on now. This is my favorite. This was my favorite gift. My favorite cancer gift. Now, it was the only cancer gift. I should have gotten more, but I use it a lot. And yesterday, I have to tell you, PorcFest descended upon me so heavily, I had to put the glasses on. But for you guys, I'll take them off.
I love it. Everyone could do with a pair of rose-colored glasses. Mine are like it's like a superhero thing. I put them on, and then I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go. I can string a sentence together.
No, I think this is a really diverse group to talk about PorcFest from all sorts of different experiences. Dennis, this is your second PorcFest organizing. I've been to 7 PorcFests and never volunteered a minute there. It's my it's my 2 weeks of the year I take off from doing things and let other people take up the slack. Carla, you've organized PorcFest. You've been to every PorcFest. Every PorcFest at this point?
I have not been to every PorcFest.
Okay.
My first PorcFest that I attended was 2006.
Okay. And
I missed one. So
Bill and Kevin, you guys are native free staters and still kind of relatively new to the PorcFest scene, but you've been to PorcFest and know what to expect. So the gambit of experience runs wide, and questions and advice for everything that could come up. But like first and foremost, Dennis, why don't you tell us, as the organizer of PorcFest this year, what, in your opinion, is making this year special, and why should everyone be so excited right now?
Well, I guess I want to first note that on your opening sequence, almost all of those scenes come from last year's PorcFest. And that is how fundamental PorcFest is to the Free State Project. You remember, PorcFest was actually the way that we got the Free State Project to be based in New Hampshire. So it started the entire New Hampshire Free State Project activity. And every year, once a year, we gather together and we invite other possible potential movers. Please come out and see the type of thing that we're trying to build here. I joke on the other 358 days of the year that we're not doing PorcFest, that a lot of our job is actually to make New Hampshire PorcFest 365.
Yeah.
And we're doing that. We're doing that by creating all of our Liberty Hangouts and having all of our events going all the time. And slowly and eventually we will obviate the necessity of PorcFest. But we're still working on it, guys, and we still need more help. So what we do is we put on this big festival up in the beautiful White Mountains, and we invite you guys to come out, come visit, and see what a Liberty Village might actually look like. I talk about it as being a simulated a village, an immersion into the simulated version, a celebration of human beings being able to work in win-win voluntary association. And so it's a week long. It's not, it's not an event. It's a week long experience. And a lot of people will tell you that they come to PorcFest because of, Dave Smith is going to be there. Or, oh my goodness, I really want to take this course with David Friedman. Or, oh my goodness, there's this great debate that's going to go on. Was that a hint?
No, but you talk about it. You're right. It's an experience. It's a phenomenal experience, and it's gotten so big to the point where there's spin-off and quote unquote forks of PorcFest that even happen now with ForkFest and Sporkfest and Foreverfest, where libertarians who don't think PorcFest is enough just continue the PorcFest experience throughout the summer at Rogers Campground. We're sold out. This is the second year in a row we've sold out, I believe, and it's even bigger than it was last year.
Yeah, we doubled the size last year, and this year we took a deep breath and looked at it, and we inched it up about 10%, but we couldn't go any further. And but I will tell you, even though we're not selling tickets, there are a lot of tickets being sold on the aftermarket, and you can get on the aftermarket, pick up tickets, and you can be at PorcFest June 20th to June 26th. Be there. You will love it. And like I said, you might want to come for the events, but you will really love just the interactions and the breathing free. That was my experience when I first went there in 2011. I've been just an attendee for 4, and I've been a contributor to 4, and I just couldn't believe, having lived in 6 different authoritarian states and cities, what a relief it was for me to be in this space where we were all in voluntary association, respectful relationship. I loved it. It started my travel down here, and I contribute and give back to it through this.
So, Dennis, you mentioned the aftermarket tickets. Can you just walk people from a practical perspective through that? Where do they go? What does that look like? Because I had to explain it to the police chief last week. And so just want to make sure I explained it right. So just for everyone who doesn't know, every year we sit down and we talk to the po-po and the fire chief. So we're just making nice, because north of the notch, those guys are pretty freedom loving up that way. And so it's a sort of respect for our neighbors. You want to make sure everyone's going to have a good time and no one's stepping on anyone else's toes. So aftermarket tickets. Sorry, Dennis.
Well, I think the key thing is, and I think Justin's going to put some links in there, is you've got to join the discussion groups. PorcFest isn't the type of thing that you just go there for a day or an hour and then you leave. Come and join the groups. We have 2 groups, one on Facebook called PorcFest Plans, and where attendees will share and talk about things. They'll offer tickets on that, but that's also where you can say, hey, I want a ticket. How do I find a ticket? And we'll say, oh, well, here's all the different ways that you can find a ticket. On Telegram, we use Telegram when we're up at Rogers, and it's also where all of our affinity groups. So people would get together in different groups that they have interest in. They'll set up meetups and events at PorcFest, and they'll talk beforehand. And then when they leave, they stay together in these affinity groups. But that's also up on Telegram. On Telegram, there's a PorcFest attendee chat that is just great. And you can really get links and connections and stuff like that through all of those, through both of those. The Facebook PorcFest Plans and Telegram PorcFest attendee chat. But generally, there are a lot of people who bought tickets, especially when they were inexpensive. Long time ago, about a year ago.
Many moons ago at the last PorcFest.
I bought my ticket before leaving PorcFest last year.
That's right.
Yep.
That's
Same.
wise to
Same
do.
thing.
And as a matter of fact, we have a discount that is a kind of a secret discount that you have to ask people how to get the discount at PorcFest, but it's only good at PorcFest. So it's really, really good deal to do. But you have to go out and talk to a lot of people to find the discount. And we do it to incentivize all of you introverts to go out and say howdy to your neighbors. So what happens is then all of a sudden their plans change. And, there's a Golden Girls marathon on television. And they go, oh, my God, what do I do? Did I go to PorcFest or do I stay home and watch B. Arthur on Golden Girls? And, of course, some small subset of them will be watching the Golden Girls marathon. They are making a terrible mistake, but their mistake is your benefit. You get to pick up their tickets.
So also, it's not even just people who can't go. Libertarians often make the best capitalists. And I know of a good number of people who, when tickets were really inexpensive, knew that having sold out and had the biggest PorcFest ever last year, we were bound to repeat it, and bought 10, 15 tickets at a time and are reaping the rewards of their foresight.
So Dennis, people who haven't been before, if they're looking to get one of these aftermarket tickets, what can somebody expect walking into PorcFest, for their first time? What are they going to see?
Yeah, so it's actually really hard to explain what PorcFest is, especially after the redesign that we went through the last few years, because it's very much decentralized. People will come to me, David Friedman, hey, I want to put on a talk, and I'll go, well, okay, we have this idea of the entire campground. All the people who have campsites, any of them can declare themselves to be a hub of activity. Now, a hub could be a place where they're selling something. They could be selling a product or food or service. Or a hub could be what Bill's going to be running, which is going to be kind of this lounge, where you kind of hang out and you can drink and chat and meet people and talk about various subjects. Or a hub could be a venue where they actually have chairs, and some people put in a stage, and they'll have formal talks, and every hour they have talks. We have several of these hubs throughout the campground, and so what you do is when you show up, there is a schedule, and you'll see lots of activities going on in each hour, and you can kind of pick and choose. But a lot of your time will be spent hanging out with Bill in his lounge and saying, Bill, how did you get such big feet? My God, loser.
Yeah, and there's a comment. If you want to come to the lounge, that's the Mises Caucus Lounge. I'm helping organize that. So
yeah, well, somebody,
it's gonna be a big spot. It's gonna be a big party.
Somebody hasn't actually announced that hub, and I don't know who that might be there.
I don't know. You should go deal with that person aggressively.
I know, but he's too tall. I have to get a ladder to go up and smack him. But yeah, all the hubs. If you are at a campsite and you say, "Hey, I really want to do," we have hubs like for the kids. Porcupines, and we used to have a teen hub. I don't think that they're doing the teens. The teens don't like to hang in one place. They're scattered all throughout the place.
My favorite was we used to have a Teen Central tent that was on the field that they came up with. And when they named it, I went down to go hang out with them once. And I was like, guys, next year, maybe we should make it Teen Decentral. And they were like, yeah, that's cool. So, of course, no teenager ever makes any of those noises. They looked at me like, who's this crazy lady who wandered all? I think someone asked this already, but I want to ask you too, Dennis. Who's a speaker you're really excited about that you do know who's coming? You've already mentioned Dave Smith. Of course, he's come a couple of times. We have some other comedians who are coming. I'm hoping, maybe we could throw together a slate of some FSP folks, but Lou Perez will be out, I believe, on the Friday night. So we got comedians, we got some fancy pants talkers. Maybe walk us through some of the people. For those people who are introverted, we know sometimes you have to ease into PorcFest a little bit. And one of the ways to do that, of course, is to go sit in some talks. You're with other people who are interested in the same kind of things because they're also there. And that gives you that opening to start to, build out your network, because that's what PorcFest is about, to meet your future friends.
Yeah. And that's really why I highly recommend that you get onto our Facebook groups and Telegram groups so you can start interacting with people, and so you actually know them virtually, and then when you meet them, you can form that basis. I also urge newbies and introverts to get there early and meet people before it gets really, really big, and so you can kind of form those relationships, and they can be your touchstones throughout the festival. So the people I'm most excited about.
You better say me, and I'll say you.
Me. Oh, well. The other thing I want to mention is that we have. So those of you who think of libertarian conventions when they think of PorcFest, it's really not a convention, but we do have one room that is set up kind of like a classroom. I call it the Liberty 101. And that's where we have kind of intro to everything that you could possibly think of. We have economists like David Friedman and Gene Epstein giving little introductions to various aspects of economics. We have Carla and Jeremy and myself and a bunch of other people just giving introductions. Emily Smith will be giving introductions to farming in New Hampshire and to the Bardo. And so we have, it's a nice way. There's nice chairs. It's controlled environment. It's out of the hubbub, and it's a great place to go and pick up really kind of deep knowledge in an area that maybe you feel like you'd like to have a little bit more of. So that's kind of that's kind of the thing that I get the most excited about, Carla. We have a number of people who are going to be coming and giving talks in there. It just gives you a variety of topics that are libertarian, but you may not be 100% sure about those topics. The rest of the hubs, though, there's just so much going on. I think the thing that the one I was working on the most today is the Gene Epstein moderated debate between Jeremy Kauffman and John Bush, with the resolution being. Texas is a better destination for freedom lovers than is New Hampshire. So I love that topic because we get so many people going, I really like this idea about the Free State Project, but we should have it in every state. In my state.
Yeah.
So
it's so cold.
I'm excited for that too.
We got John Bush, who is a great speaker and a great debater. He's going to go up against our Jeremy Kauffman. And, if he can make the case that you ought to move to Texas instead of moving to New Hampshire, if you're libertarian, if you're conservative, totally agree with you. But if you're libertarian, that you should move to Texas instead of New Hampshire, well, then maybe you should move to California instead of New Hampshire. But I'm excited about that debate. That's going to be Friday at noon. Every noon, we have a kind of a major debate going on, and then you'll see the hubs doing a number of debates. Another debate that we have is on circumcision. We have the one of the Republican gubernatorial candidates arguing with a libertarian gubernatorial candidate about whether New Hampshire Liberty people should park their vote in Republican or in Libertarian. column. So it's that type of kind of fun talks that I like those types of things. So that's really what I get excited about. The conferences, I've gone to conferences. I've 40 years. I've been to lots of conferences. So this is more. I think this is more fun than conferences. But you can come and decide for yourselves.
No, you speak of like conferences, libertarian conferences, conventions. That's kind of something the Liberty Movement's known for. We have Freedom Fest, PorcFest, the series of festivals all over the summer. But we always hear people refer to PorcFest as like the mecca of libertarianism. It's the most libertarian of these events. It's the most libertarian and the most free stater of the Free State Project. It's where everyone shines and is at their peak. And at peak Kanona's,
at their worst. Usually.
And at their worst, absolutely. Pete Kanona's,
it right.
Pete Kanona's last year in an interview said he believes PorcFest is the closest we will ever actually come to Ancapistan in real life. I'm
dedicating the rest of my life to prove him wrong, by the way. New Hampshire will be the closest we get.
But I think this is a question not just for Dennis. I want to answer it as well. And I want to ask everyone else, because we've all been to a number of PorcFests. What is the most libertarian thing you've ever witnessed or experienced at a PorcFest that you could experience nowhere else in the world? And for me, it was a few years back. I remember at a PorcFest, it was one of the first nights of PorcFest, and me and some other friends were enjoying the adult side of PorcFest at night, and about 2-3 in the morning, walking around in a altered state of mind, enjoying the safety of the campground and the comfort of company of our friends. And a small 6-year-old walks up to us with a wagon at 2 in the morning and just yells, "Hey, adults, you messed up? Do you need some water? It's $1." And starts hawking water and snacks to inebriated adults at 2 in the morning, making a profit. And then the next day I woke up and that same 6-year-old was running a union of children on Segway scooters and bicycles, running around the campground, delivering breakfast and taking out trash from campsites. The kids created their own economy overnight. And you don't see that anywhere else in the world.
Yeah, well, that was the first thing that popped in my head was the agorism, like the use of it, like the functional practice of simply like voluntary exchanges that you're only seeing this in one place for kind of a limited time, where like everything is kind of like up for trade. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on. Like we brought strawberry jam and we're trading that around for breakfast sandwiches and like stuff, just in practice, you don't see it a lot, and it's something that is on full display everywhere you go, 24 hours a day.
I always say that the group, the segment that enjoys PorcFest the most are the preteens, that 10 to 14-year-old segment that's been stuck oftentimes in government schools and just and institutionalized, and all of a sudden they're in a freedom village. And they are so entrepreneurial. It's just amazing how hard government schools have to knock the entrepreneurial spirit out of human beings, because they're just like, oh my goodness. And there were kids last year who left with thousands of dollars. Now it wasn't really dollars; it's also in gold backs, silver.
You mean real money?
But so for me, I actually loved watching those kids flock around, and they're running all these services. They're dog walking and babysitting and taking the trash out for the hubs, and it's just amazing to watch their scrambling for and the freedom, feeling as though they're part and parcel of this adult world, and they are actually adding value. They are adding value. One of the attendees last year had put out a schedule of all the events every day. It was like a little newsletter, and he gave them to the kids to distribute. But he told the kids, get whatever you can for it. So some kids would be like $5, and then $4 and $1, and
one gold back was the going rate by the end of the week. Yeah,
which was about $350, $380 about in those days. Yeah. I'll tell you the experience I had, which was I think my second or third PorcFest, and I have to tell you, it was such a cultural shock to me having grown up in New York City and lived in Chicago and Boston and New Jersey, to be in the Free State first of all, but also at PorcFest, and it took me a while to kind of get used to it. But I think it was the second or third one. At the end of PorcFest, we do the burning of the porcupine. And we have this large bonfire and everyone gathers around it. And I was standing there looking at the different groups. And there were, people who were in bow ties and jackets, and there were, people who were practically naked, and there were people who had guns, and there were people who were smoking spleets, and there were people who were like kind of waving their hands, and Justin may have been one of them, like obviously enjoying some sort of adult thing that I don't even know about. And then there were other people who were having like a serious conversation, and then there were like fire dancers with torches going on, and it was just amazing assortment of humanity. Now, a lot of people talk about libertarianism as though it's one thing. It's really an extremely thin ethic. And it only says we will respect each other and their body for how they show up. And that's okay. You show up and you're different from me. That's okay. I may not want to associate with you, but that's okay. But here you saw this breadth of humanity. I believe we have the largest diversity of humanity that's possible, because all it is you can be whomever you want to be. You can be whomever you want to be, just as long as you don't violate another human being's body. And that's really the major underlying rule of PorcFest. We respect each other's body. Consent is principle. Is the principal organizing thing. We respect each other's property. It's free association. So if you're on a campsite and you don't like what they're doing, it's their campsite. You leave and go to another campsite. We have a campsite. We have a hub for atheists this year and a hub for Christians. So if you're really strong in either one, just pick a hub. And guess what? Those two hubs are probably going to be doing some events together. So you're probably going to have fun with them no matter what.
Dennis, because we've had in the past too, and we've had some, journalists up. One year we had, it was Ramadan. We had a Muslim tent, a Jewish tent, a Christian tent, and they were literally 3 in a row down the hill. So to your point, I guess my story, I'll just tell it super briefly. I think we have talked about it before. 2 things, and most libertarian things, was the kid she was 9, selling a beer to the NPR reporter while the then PorcFest organizer was saying that Ron Paul was his favorite government thug. So that was one. That seemed super libertarian. And then the other one involved a group of folks who had come up from Connecticut, and they were very loud. And, because to the point of sort of respecting everyone, at some stage you're like, we got to get the noise down. People have young kids. We're a big crowd. So, after 11 o'clock, we're trying to be respectful for the most part to other people so that everyone can have a good time. So my advice is always start drinking and do your drugs early. You got all day. Everyone could go to sleep at 11 o'clock. It's not that hard. I know that's not what's going to happen. But anyway, these kids were selling food, and at 4 a.m, they were revving their chainsaw every time they made a sale. So it'd be like at 4 a.m. So people were not happy about that. So a group of people went to Staples, made posters, put them on the trees, and said, boycott this campsite. Do not buy from them. They're the jackasses who keep making all the noise. These kids figured out that that was going on. So they went to Staples and they made vouchers that said, if you bring one of the posters, we'll give you $5 off. And it was a sight to behold, because it was all market forces, and it was all, they figured it out. They in the end didn't come back, because they just didn't want to them, freedom meant the freedom to be able to bring their chainsaw at 4 a.m. with no consideration for anyone. And, and it's like, okay, I get that. That is a certain kind of freedom, but that's not what we're doing here. Here we actually do care within some semblance of reason that everyone can kind of get along, right? And because it is young people partying hard and old fogies and everyone in between, including little kids and, young, so we try and make the gamut. So that was my one. How about you, Bill?
Unmute yourself.
I would say the most libertarian thing at PorcFest is the ranting competition. Libertarians are notoriously pissed off about everything. They rant in your living room. They go to your house. They have more to say about every topic than anybody else. So they give you the biggest living room and the biggest audience you ever get to rant in front of over at PorcFest, and it's called Soapbox Idol.
I think we have an all-star lineup of Soapbox Idol participants that regularly host the show.
The only thing you get from winning Soapbox Idol is bragging rights, so I try to use them.
You're supposed to get a free ticket the next year, so sorry about that.
Whoops. Well, it's all right. We're gonna figure that out. But yeah, I went. Last year was my first PorcFest, and if you hadn't said kids running their own market, I would definitely say that. But since you did say that, I'm going to say Soapbox Idol, where every libertarian gets to rant to all the other libertarians and talk their best shit. Whatever gets you riled up, bring it.
Yeah, that's the penultimate event of PorcFest is the Soapbox Idol Rant-a-thon, and we do have last year's winner here. Bill won. Now, highly questionable whether he really did win, but he did knock off the reigning champion, who was from the year before. So
highly questionable.
We have some serious competition coming in this year, and we hope that some of you guys come in too. Queen Quill herself is the MC of the rant. And so during the week, there'll be sections where you can kind of go see her, just tell her what your rant is, do a little bit of rant for her so she can see where you are, and she'll put you on the schedule if she thinks that you can beat Bill Barger. And we all want to beat Bill.
And just for the record, I'm not just the MC. I also came up with the idea, made it happen, and we've had some incredible judges over the years that have come, and we've had some really, really, really epic, historic rants. The first year we did it, the program ran for 4.5 hours, which is why we now have auditions. And I really only have one ask, and that's keep your clothes on.
It's been an issue.
It's your word weapon.
Well, I don't want to say that Bill may have cheated on that particular rule to win. There was some shenanigans going on. That's all I know.
Okay, I won by 3 judges rating, and then it was a 3-way tie, and the audience clearly decided on me. So I think it was indisputable. You weren't even the finalists.
So our favorite events of PorcFest aside, the Soapbox Idol is definitely one of the crowd favorites and the fan favorites. It's one of the handful of times where there's more people at the pavilion than not at the pavilion at PorcFest every year is for Soapbox Idol. But we're there for a whole week. Soapbox Idol is 2 hours. Other events are an hour here, an hour there, an hour at night, an hour in the morning, dinner here, yoga on the field in the morning, ultimate frisbee after lunch. There's so much to do, so much going on, but how do you make the most of this PorcFest? How we all made the best of our past PorcFests. And Dennis, what advice do you have to someone who's never been to PorcFest before about how to prioritize their time and make sure that they get the best out of their experience?
Well, I actually wrote a little software program last year that helped you go through. We had something like 560 events on that spreadsheet, and you can kind of rank them from 1 to 10. Okay, yeah, I'm a nerd. You can rank them from 1 to 10, and then it kind of gave you kind of a specialized thing. So you could say, okay, I only want to see the things that are 7 and above, and it says, okay, you've got 200 of them. Okay, 8 and above. And it gave you like kind of like this personalized schedule. I thought this was great. It's how a nerd like I maximize it. And I can tell you, what I was doing, I'm driving around trying to welcome people and stuff. I'm having so many significant interactions just moving around and talking to people, and then I'll get into an engagement, and well, there goes 2 events. Dude, I'm not making those. I'm having too much fun here. I think this whole idea of optimizing something like PorcFest, it's like, there is no such thing as optimizing. There is be here now, enjoy this for what it is. You're engaged here and enjoy that. And if you're not, if you think something else, great, move on. And there's
one of the
so
biggest
much
pieces of advice I have for people is don't burn yourself out. Don't try and go to everything. You're there for a week. There's 12 hours of programming every day. If you sit through every seminar, every lecture, double book yourself at multiple hubs, you're going to burn yourself out, and you're going to spend the next week asleep. Don't be afraid of taking an hour in the middle of the day to go back to your own campsite and just sit down and relax.
And there's so much more than 12 hours of programming per day. I mean, every hour of every day, there's probably literally dozens of events going on. If we like to brag about our Free State Project calendar here. The PorcFest calendar is like the Free State Project calendar on steroids. It's like it went Super Saiyan 3 times or something. It's crazy. I mean, it's like you wouldn't believe the number. I think last year there were 700 events or something in the week. I mean, and that's just the ones that were registered. People were doing all sorts of things that weren't registered. There was impromptu talks that were given. There's all sorts of stuff that happens there. It's unbelievable the amount of different events and venues that people come and just set up on their own. Because again, you don't have to get anybody's approval. You get approval for advertising. You come, you book your campsite, you set up something. You want to, if you're going to PorcFest and you want to sell burgers, come bring extra burgers, bring extra ice, sell burgers. You'll make some. If you just want to bring extra, you'll make money. Just bring things. So there's a market there.
That's one of my favorite things. I had a coworker at my job. It's not a Free Stater job. I don't work in the Liberty Movement full time. I have a normal old job here in the nonprofit sector in New Hampshire. And I had a coworker come up to me yesterday at work and say, "Hey, my cousin's going to PorcFest, and they want to know if they need permission to sell keychains."
No.
We don't need
that makes me actually a little nervous, but we could put a pin in that. A couple of things I want to mention is I think it's important for new timers and first timers to just know the lay of the land. So when you're like driving into PorcFest, first of all, you're coming through the notch. It's incredible. You will fall in love with New Hampshire. It is undeniable. It is an incredibly beautiful place. If you love nature and you haven't moved here yet, you're really missing out. I mean, it's primo up here if you love nature. So you're going to come through the notch. Then you're going to get up to Rogers. You're going to go in. The first thing you're going to do is actually park at the top. You're only allowed to park there for a very short time while you go into Rogers to get your campground, to figure out your stuff. Then you want to go down to the field and get your registration bracelet and all your stuff so that you have your magnet for your car, you have your things, and then you could go and then you can set up and you can do everything. We'll have Rego open every day. It's just to make it simple for you so that you can come in and out. Something people never know and then they're surprised. There is a $5, if I remember correctly, fee. If you're just a day pass person, like if you don't have a campsite or whatever, Rogers will make you pay a $5 a day fee. I forget if it's for parking or something.
It's parking.
It's something.
Yeah.
Factor it in. Don't be mad. We don't want to hear about it. It's been that way for 19 years. If I could convince him to do away with it, I would have done that by now. Stock it up. All right. The other thing everyone needs to know, you need to bring a hoodie. It gets cold in the mountains in the winter. I might even pack some socks because all y'all will complain. It will rain once. Black flies matter. Will bite you on the ass. Bring some bug spray. Probably bring some sunscreen. Bring a hat and bring some joy because it's going to be awesome.
And bring some water.
Yes.
One of the
Yeah,
biggest
bring water.
mistakes I see rookies make, people in their first PorcFest, is just assuming that you can get everything on a campsite, that you can just go into town and get everything at Shaw's in town if you need be. We're bringing 3,000 libertarians to a town. Does anybody actually know the population of Lancaster?
It's less than
I think
3,000 as
probably
far
in
as I
that
know.
goal range.
So we're doubling the population of a small town up in the mountains for a week out of the blue. They know we're coming every year, but every year without fail, something happens.
That liquor commissioner that one year did not know we were coming in force like that. That was one year we literally sold out every liquor store anywhere near it. I think they opened 2 new stores after that. And we called them and we're like, hey, we're coming, stock up.
Right.
So,
but
I don't drink anymore, so maybe they only need one store. But
it was all you. Yeah,
water,
it was all you, Carla.
Water is definitely something I've seen people run out of. Cold food, plan what you're going to bring is things that maybe don't need to be refrigerated because it's the summer and you're up in the mountains on a campground the whole time. And there's been years where Shaw's has had to close for 2 days because they got so overwhelmed and blew a fuse and all their freezers and refrigerators in the one grocery store in town went out for 2 days. Almost without fail, we've overwhelmed the water system at Rogers.
So also, see PorcFest as a test.
Can you survive?
Everything that goes wrong at PorcFest is on purpose. It's a test to see if you guys have the metal you need.
The chops. You need the libertarian chops.
Do not, as the police chief told me people were doing, call the Popo or 911. If you are on Rogers grounds, please do not call the state if you have an issue. We can all sort our issues out ourselves. So that is definitely something that surprised me that they said had happened. And sort of the framing there was like, we don't want things to get escalated to Concord, which is south of the Notch, because now you got the real, authoritarians involved. So let's keep things north of the Notch. If something goes wrong, which likely it will, we're getting extra porta potty. Have water on hand just in case. Something usually goes wrong with the water. It's kind of beyond our control. We're trying to do everything. But again, if you think there's going to be an apocalypse and there's going to be some kind of collapse and you can't deal with 3 days where it's sort of muddy and maybe a little uncomfortable, you're going to die. So
you're doomed.
Stick with the program. If something goes wrong, roll with the punches.
Now, I sent to everyone who has a ticket, I sent out to the email on the billing order a list of things that you really ought to be paying attention to. So grab that email, get that email out of your spam folder or out of promotions, grab it and take a look. But I write there, what I usually do with my car. When I'm not volunteering, I stay off site because I'm an old fart and I like my naps. But I pack up my car with changes of clothing, and that's for sun, for hot, for cold. Get down to about 40 degrees there. Different types of hats, different types of shoes, and I actually, I'm an old sailor, so I take my foul weather gear, and I'm all set.
You gotta be.
I'll make it through the apocalypse. But then
where
also,
do you put the SWAT stuff?
You want bug spray and sunblock. You don't realize that you're up in the mountains and that sun is strong, and so put that on. I keep a headlamp in there. I have a cooler with all my craft beers. A nice way of making friends is have a bottle opener, some cool. Hey, can I get you a beer here to have you? You'll make a lot of friends that way. But other soft drinks and there's usually various groups with bourbon. So
I met Kevin that way. Kevin walked up to me, just pulled out his backpack, and just had a backpack full of beer.
Yeah. Well, that's what I do. Is I have my backpack and I go back down to my car and I change it. I change clothes and then I'll replenish and stuff like that. But yeah, water. Keep drinking water. Bring water in. For most attendees are not in the campsite. So if you're not in the campsite, bring water containers, fill up your water at the hotels, and bring it in. Put it in your cooler, and some nice ice that you get at the Shaw's, and you're set for the day. You don't have to worry about anything like that. I also bring a portable chair. I bring a portable chair so that if people are going to be sitting around there, last year I was walking by and Jordan Page was playing at some, it wasn't even a hub, it was just some campsite. And they had, 30 people, 40 people in a circle. And luckily I had my chair because my knees just don't work anymore. So I got to sit down and really enjoy this little impromptu concert that was going on. It was absolutely fantastic. Use your car as kind of your replenishment. And at night you're gonna change out of your short pants and t-shirts into hoodies and long pants and socks. Have your light. Oh, by the way, this is going to be a full moon, so it's going to be really nice. But still, take a light.
One of the things I remember my first PorcFest that I messed up was not bringing enough cash or some kind of medium exchange other than a debit card. There's no ATM on site. You have to go into town to the gas station to use ATM. It's a big hassle and it's a nightmare, but everyone prefers cash anyways, or gold or silver or crypto. But make sure you bring enough of some kind of medium exchange to participate in the wonderful, fantastic barter system that we have at PorcFest every year, because it's a true agorist barter economy. The past couple of years, I've vended firewood off my site and sold firewood, and I've arranged my scheduled delivery of 2 to 3 cords of firewood to be at my campsite. And I went the entirety of last PorcFest just bartering firewood for everything I needed the whole week. Whether it was people leaving cash in my bucket, or I remember Bill purchased firewood for me for an ounce of silver. I traded firewood with somebody who was camping at the bottom of the hill and was cooking breakfast. I traded firewood to them for breakfast 2 days. It is a true barter system and a true agorist economy, but you must make sure that you have a medium of exchange to participate with.
Last year we were really concerned because we didn't know how many food vendors there would be, and we urged people to do micro vending. And all that is if you go into town and you pick up some steaks, pick up some more, and then put it out on Telegram that you're cooking up some steaks, and all of a sudden you have 3, 4, 5, 10 people coming out over to your campsites, and you're cooking up steaks, having a fine old time, missing whatever events you were talking about because you're having so much fun. And these guys become your fast friends, and your meal was free, and you had a good time doing it. So it's that type of spirit, I think, that permeates PorcFest.
All right. Now, aside from Soapbox Idol, aside from the every night bonfire, the burning of the porcupine, we do have a lot of first-time people coming. We have a lot of people returning, a lot of veterans who never miss a PorcFest. But what do each of you think the one can't-miss event for a new person is at PorcFest each year, aside from the ones we've already covered?
I know. Can I go?
Yes.
The group photo. So, what is the one thing everyone has to do?
Come to the group photo.
Is it at 3 or 4 o'clock? I think it's at 3 o'clock. We are doing the group photo. It's a big deal. So, for everyone who's going to watch this before the time, this is my one opportunity to not screw it up, because I totally screwed it up last year, but that was mostly because someone handed me a really good. And then I was supposed to do something and I forgot, and then I lost the horn and whatever. But I want to do it 2 ways this year if we can. I do want one where everyone stands in the field with the pavilion and the mountains in the background, because that's a really pretty photo. But I want everyone back on the hill the way we used to do it way back in the day. And then because we've grown so much, because everyone's awesome and our idea is like so killer, and we were just ahead of the curve and we're doing something awesome and historic, I want us to spell out, and we can quibble. I think FSP will be easier, but we could do pork. I'm more inclined to the pork, but whatever.
If we're going to complicate it, let's do taxation and stuff.
So, no. I mean,
we have enough people to do
for
that.
FSP is I was like, okay, that's the shortest one. We could just do FU.
No.
So, but let's go for good karma, or we could do a giant heart. That would be nice too. But I think FSP or pork. And so probably me and some volunteers and all the helpful people who are going to come help us unload the truck and help put up the banners, and all of this runs on people power. We'll put out some things, but just for everyone who's watching this, you're basically an ambassador for PorcFest, right? Like if you know something, I'm probably stealing Dennis's material. Sorry, honey. So if you know something someone else doesn't. So we're always there to help people have the optimal experience. So if you know what's supposed to be happening during the group photo, because Carla will not know by then, help me make it work.
So the best way to make sure you don't forget the group photo is to attend the Bardo pig roast, which is immediately preceding it, and it's the best meal you'll have all week.
No, it's after that.
It's after the group photo this time?
He
man.
said
No wonder you keep missing it, Justin.
He said proceeding.
I do keep missing it. I have slept through the group photo 4 times. But
don't be like Justin.
Don't be like me. Show up for the group photo. Carla takes it very seriously. We're in the final 10 minutes, and there's one thing we haven't touched on, and one thing I think we really need to touch on, and Carla almost brought it up there, and the need for volunteers, because this is a group effort to put on PorcFest every year. And it hasn't always gone seamlessly. It hasn't always gone flawlessly. There's always hiccups with any organization, with any big group effort. I remember a couple years ago when the truck showed up to unload, there was only 4 of us there to unload the truck. It was me, Carla, AJ, Louie, and I think 2 other people who showed up to help. And that wasn't by any malice of anyone. There was just nobody else on the campground yet. We showed up a weekend early, so we were the only ones there. Dennis, we're in need of volunteers still. How can people get in touch if they want to volunteer? What do they get for volunteering? What do we need volunteers for? Go.
Well, so I think the thing to realize is that every single person here is a volunteer. I'm a volunteer. It just happens that I work for months and months and months on this particular project, but I'm volunteering. I'm volunteering. We have Jay who's volunteering to lead facilities, but he's going to need people to help him check on water and trash and making sure basically the volunteers are there. We're all volunteers. Every single attendee is a volunteer. If you see chairs need to be moved, move chairs. If you see trash ought to be taken down to the dumpster, pull out the thing, take it down to the dumpster. There's a bag there. Just help everyone out. If you see the guy next to you is struggling with his tent, help him put up his tent. We're all helping each other. We have Sean and Brett who will be doing the Pork Rangers, and the Pork Rangers are there really just to support you and make sure that everyone is having a good time. They're checking it out and making sure everything's good and copacetic. Last year we had one situation where some guy was so angry because somebody kept him up that night, and he was so angry, and he went to the Pork Rangers. He's like, how dare they? And he just doesn't understand PorcFest. So we basically got him together with a guy. The guy goes, oh, geez, I didn't know. Geez, I'm so sorry. They became fast friends. You just go and talk to the man, we have Laser doing a free aid. We need help with people who have medical experience. And we have lots of people needed for registration. You guys at registration are the first big smile that people are going to have when they've traveled sometimes halfway across the world to get here to this festival. And you're the big greeters, and all of our jobs are basically to connect with all these beautiful people who also want freedom. We have Johan and Scott and Robley who are going to be handling the biggest hubs, in the community tent, the pavilion, and the Liberty 101. We have Sean Grissom helping with the vendors, but every single one of these people needs help. So like if you like speaker events, go and volunteer to help. There's a volunteer thing at porcfest.com, or just we'll be posting it at the email. There's a link. As a matter of fact, I think I replicated that link 3 times. So important it is that if you really want to help, just go in and check. I'll do a few hours doing this, or I can help with the Rangers, or I can help. I would really like to help welcome guests into the pavilion and make sure that they're comfortable and seated. Rebecca Kin is our volunteer coordinator this year, and she's the one who will be contacting you and saying, hey, you really ought to talk to this person or that person, or can I chalk you up for this hour? But we need some large crews. Of course, Justin talked about setup and breakdown. Setup is always great to have help. Breakdown is when it's absolutely critical, because the volunteers, especially the main volunteers that I just cited, all those folks, they are so burned out. Because remember, I've been working on this since last year. And there's other people who have been working on it for so long, and we have this just gigantic orgasmic celebration, and now it's time for us to sleep, and we have to it's like, oh God, so come down out of the campgrounds and help us. And many hands make light work. So please remember, you're not going to a conference. This is not where there's a paid staff. We have 2 paid staff. That's it. And they're not 100% PorcFest. They're doing all these other things for the Free State Project. Everyone else is a volunteer. So please come and help. When you're at the talks, you'll hear the organizers say, hey, can you move some chairs in? Can you take some chairs out? Do it. It's just more fun. Help people out. Look after the dogs if they get loose, and the kids when they're running around, and we're all checking on each other, and we're all supporting one another. And it really is a beautiful thing that PorcFest does, and I really want to urge. The other thing that I want to say is that the hubs are also volunteers. All these people who put on these venues and these lounges, those are all volunteers. They'll set things up, and sure, they would love to have donations to defray some of their costs. Come on, guys. If you're enjoying yourself, and you're enjoying the Bill Barger bourbon bonanza, whatever he's concocting there, throw a couple of bucks in the thing so he can get a little bit more bourbon for his drinks. But those are the guys. We have about half of them who have announced. The map is on porcfest.com, so you can see who's announced already. But those guys, it's there's going to be about 100 of them, and those are all putting on things throughout the campground, and they have their own group of people there. And then these speakers, if you're or workshops or demonstrations, if you want to do something at PorcFest, we give you the tools to do it. You could. There's a lot of venues that you can offer your talk to. You can just go on to the PorcFest attendee chat or to the PorcFest plans and say, hey, I have this talk, or I want to give a demo on things. I love being surprised by what's happening. So we're gonna have a Renaissance dance. Okay. I would never plan a Renaissance dance. Last year, one of the hoppinest places was a knitting circle. Do you think that I actually would have ever thought of a knitting circle? Not in my wildest dreams. That was so hot, though.
My wife joined.
It's so hot it survived after PorcFest and continues weekly.
That's right, knit and or stitch and bitch, I think they call it now. So it's been very hot. So whatever it is that you want to put on, please come and advertise it. I give you tools where you can advertise your hub. We're setting up the campsite, and we're going to be doing, one person's doing some automotive work there. So whatever it is that you want to do or talk about, you can create a hub, or you can just have an event and work with another campsite to host it. So it's all volunteer. It's a beautiful thing to watch it come together. People were saying, you must be so ready for PorcFest to be over. I'm going, no. This is the part I love. This is the part where everyone's building and creating. This is what I want to see. After this thing, we're going to have a Jitsi call for question and answer. I'll stay on and answer any remaining questions. I know we haven't really touched on a lot of these things, but we can do that on Jitsi. And hopefully you can put a link somewhere.
Link is in the description. Link is on the screen. That's the tiny URL for the PorcFest Q&A. That's the Jitsi chat that Dennis is going to be hosting right after the show ends tonight, which we're coming up on the end. Carla, you got something to go.
Two things. I would like to thank PorcFest's main sponsors, Porcupine Real Estate and AFP Foundation and New Hampshire Goldbacks, for their support. We are still looking for sponsors. You can go to the website and find more sponsor information there. That is how we cover the costs to keep those tickets really low. And for people who are wondering, yes, we are a constitutional carry state. Bring your guns. We encourage you to do it, but we also encourage responsible firearm holders. So if you're going to be drinking or drugging, let's not mix those things. We believe in two things: individual liberty and personal responsibility. Bring your game, guys.
And if you're coming from somewhere where you're not allowed to have a gun, State Representative Tony Lucas every year hosts the newbie shoot, where it's a 2-part event where you can actually get a gun safety class on site at PorcFest, and then they take a trip out to a local range. Worth going to. Especially if you're bringing maybe a family member or a teenager who's never been exposed to guns before. Perfect time to do that. So as Dennis was saying, there is the Jitsi chat right after the show. Go to tinyurl.com/PorcFestQA. Dennis is going to be hosting a Q&A for all the questions we didn't have time to get to and didn't have time to cover. And there's a ton more information.
There's so many.
To get yourself ready for the biggest and best PorcFest ever.
You're going to love it. Just come. Just stop
of course, that's really why I do it.
You guys can also check out fsp.org/visit.nh for all the information you need to help yourself get here, because that's the biggest trouble a lot of people have, is getting here in the first place. If you want to check out the map Dennis talked about, the schedule for PorcFest, all the other information, porcfest.com. You can't get your tickets there, but you can get connected to the Telegrams, the Facebook groups, and the secondary market where you can find the remaining tickets. Anything else anybody else wants to shout out before we close off tonight?
Come try and see if you can rant better than me. I'm pretty restrained on this show.
All right. Hey, well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, Dennis, for coming on. Thank you for everyone for coming back. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, watching, and great questions, great comments, and participation. Until next time, be free.
Live free and thrive.
Live free or die. Don't let the freedom pass you by. Stand up proud and strong and lead this country on. Live free or die. From the village green to the mountainside, Yankee voices sing the song of liberty.
In 1623, she touched the hand of history and led the colonies on. Independence was won, and the spirit lives today to guide America on her way. New Hampshire standing free, the home of liberty.
Live free or die, don't let the freedom pass you by.